Hi, this is Miss Park. This video is going to be about solving word problems with parabolas using the factored form. So I'm going to look at the textbook. This is page 284, and I'm going to do questions 14 and 15 with you. So the first one says, the speed of a turbine aircraft engine is controlled by a power setting X. The length of time, T, in hours, that the engine will run at a given amount of fuel at power setting X is given by the relation this. Okay, so if we know X, which is the power setting, then we can figure out how much time the engine will run for. Okay, so T is dependent on this X. Then it's asking us to find the zeros of the relation. So zeros are another word for x-intercepts. X-intercepts. Now we see this equation is not written in the form that we could read x-intercepts. That's factored form. So we're going to have to factor it to get it into that form and then read the zeros. Then it says find the coordinates of the vertex. So we know once we have x-intercepts, we already know how to find the vertex from those. Then it's saying, what do the coordinates of the vertex represent in terms of the situation, and then check by graphing using technology. So I'm not going to check with technology. I'm just going to do a quick sketch. All right, so how do you do this question? So I'm going to write the equation. T equals negative 0.2x squared plus 3.2x minus 5.6. Okay, so if we want the x-intercept or the zeros, we're going to need factored form. So the first thing to do is notice that there's a negative 0.2 before the x squared. So that already tells us this is going to be a two-step factoring, where we have to first factor out the negative 0.2 and then see what else is inside. So let's do that. Let's take out negative 0.2. Now, for this part, you could use the window method, right? So here's your window method, or the area model, where you have negative 0.2 here, negative 0.2x squared plus 3.2x minus 5.6, and think about what would have to go in each of these spots here. Okay, if you don't use the window method, you can just factor it out by saying I'm going to have to take out a negative 0.2. And now, what is that going to leave for each of these parts? So for the first part, this negative 0.2x squared divided by negative 0.2 is x squared. 3.2x divided by negative 0.2, just going to use my calculator. So 3.2 divided by negative 0.2 is negative 16. And then negative 5.6 divided by negative 0.2 is 28, positive 28. So again, if I was to use the window method, I would think of what would have to go in each of these question marks. So you just take this area divided by length, and that gives you width. Take this area divided by length and gives you width, and so on. Okay, so now I have this. It's closer to factored form, but I still need to factor all the way. So I'm going to need, so if you're using the window method, I'm going to need to find these numbers that go on the outside for length and width. So I know I have x and x. I'm going to need to find two numbers that multiply to 28. But when I add them, I'm going to get negative 16. So what goes into 28? Let's see, 1 and 28, 2 and 14, and I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So 2 and 14. But if I fill this in, I get 2x and I get 14x. They add up to 16x, and I want negative 16x. So that's going to be negative 2 and negative 4 should do it. And check, yep, these two add up to negative 16x. So my dimensions are x minus 14 and x minus 2. And now we have factored form. So now we know that let me just put the page number. This is page 284, number 14. Okay. So now we know that the x-intercepts are 14 and 2. Okay. Quick sketch tells us that I have one here and 1 here. And then the first part, it said what are the x-intercepts, or what are the zeros, so they're 14 and 2. The second part says find the coordinates of the vertex. So when we have our two x-intercepts, we know that the axis of symmetry goes right through the middle. So the middle is what you get when you add them up and divide by 2. So finding the average. 2 plus 14 is 16, divided by 2 is 8. So we know that the axis of symmetry goes through 8. So therefore we know the vertex is 8 something. 8 what? Well, we'll put it into our equation. Okay, so y equal, or actually in this case it's t equals negative 0.2, 8 minus 14 times 8 minus 2, which is negative 0.2 times negative 6 times 6. So I'll put that into the calculator. And I get 7.2. Therefore, the vertex is, what was it, 8 and 7, 8, 7.2. So I'm going to put my vertex up here. This is 8, 7.2, and I'm going to connect the dots. Okay, and I'm actually going to stop there because our axes were this x, which is, x was a power setting, and t was a length of time. And since time can never be negative, I'm actually not going to extend this below. Okay, I mean, like you could, but it doesn't make sense for the question. All right, and then the last part is saying, what do the coordinates of vertex represent? So in this case, so the vertex 8, 7.2 means that at power setting 8, the engine just looking for the units, hours. Okay, the engine will run for 7.2 hours. Okay, and that's how we do that entire word problem. So when you're given a word problem where the equation is given in the standard form, not factored, you need to do all the factoring, find the x-intercept, find the vertex that's directly between, and that's going to be your highest value. And it actually, in the case of this one, the longest the engine will ever run is 7.2 hours, right? That is the maximum of this parabola. Okay, and then the next question is number 15. So same one, page 284, but this time it's number 15, and it says, professional skateboarder Danny Wei jumped over the Great Wall of China. His path can be modeled by this relation. What is his height above the Great Wall? And H is his height above the Great Wall. D is the horizontal distance from the takeoff ramp, both in meters. Factor the relation. Use the factored relation to determine the distance between his takeoff and his landing. What was Danny's maximum height above the Great Wall? Okay, so very, very similar question. Okay, and so the difference is that the equation looks a little different from the other one. So I'm going to do this. Let's write the equation. H equals negative 0.05 d squared plus 1.15 d. And notice that this equation has only 2 parts to it, whereas most equations we've seen have 3 parts. So how do you factor it? So when you only have 2 parts to it, you don't need the 2 by 2 window. You just need the 1 by 2 window. So let me put this here. Okay, I'm going to have to factor out this number before the d squared. And because when we factor, we're always looking for the greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor here actually has a d in it also. Okay, so this is the greatest common factor. It has the negative 0.05 and it has a d. So what's going to be left on this side here? So this one's going to be, so negative 0.05d squared divided by negative 0.05d leaves me with just a d. And this one's going to be 1.15d divided by negative 0.05d. So all we have to do is we have to divide the number part. So we go 1.15 divided by negative 0.05. That's it. No, error, of course, because I kept making mistakes. Okay, 1.15 divided by negative 0.05, negative 23. Okay, so this means that I can write this in factored form as negative 0.05d times d minus 23. Okay. This is factored form. It looks a little weird because we're used to seeing two brackets, but we can think of this one, this d by itself, that's the same as writing d minus 0. Right? D is the same as d minus 0. So that's how we can write it with two brackets, even though here in this line, it's not written that way. So that tells me that my d-intercepts are 0 and 23. All right, so I'm gonna start my sketch. Okay, so here he is. This is D, and this is his height. And he's jumping from 0, and he's gonna land at 23 meters from the ramp. So his vertex should be somewhere up here. So the next part of the question is asking what is his maximum height? So that's asking us for the vertex. Maximum height happens at the vertex. So same thing, we find the middle. That's the axis of symmetry. So we add them up and divide by 2, and we get 11.5. So that means that the vertex is somewhere on 11.5. And then we will put that into the equation. So hold on, let me write here. I'll say, so therefore the vertex is 11.5 something. Okay, and so then we'll figure that out. H is negative 0.05 times 11.5. Okay, we could do minus 0, although it doesn't make a difference, times 11.5 minus 23. And see how much that is. So I'll get my calculator. Times 11.5 times, I get 6.6125. Okay, so that tells me that my vertex is here, 11.5, 6.6125. And that is my maximum height, 6.6125. And so then we answer the question, therefore his maximum height is 6.6125 meters. All right, so same process as always. You got to factor in order to find the x-intercepts. Use the x-intercepts to find the axis of symmetry right in the middle. That tells you where the vertex is going to be. Sub that value into the equation to get the rest of the vertex and answer the question. All right, thanks for watching. Good luck.